everyone, this is Mindy Egan for Hero Arts, and in today's video we are going to use this beautiful poinsettia background, but no coloring is needed. Instead, we're going to create a graphic background. Now the poinsettia background stamp is a red rubber cling stamp, which means it already has foam on it. So to do our stamping, I can remove the foam insert from my MISTI tool, and then I can place my stamp set inside of that and pick that up with the door of the MISTI. I'm going to take a piece of Deluxe white cardstock, and I have a little bit of removable adhesive on the back to hold it in place, and then I'm going to ink up my background with the Intens-ified black ink. I'm going to stamp that down really well, but there are a lot of detailed areas on this, so I'm going to stamp it again just to make sure I have a really good coverage of all of those beautiful details. Now next, I'm going to be trimming up some cardstock. So I'm turning this into a Christmas card, and the cardstock colors I picked are Peony, Cherry, Cranberry, Shamrock, Meadow, and Kiwi. And this will all be listed down below and on the blog as well if you want to reference that. And I'm just trimming this down into 1/4-inch strips. So I trimmed about 3 of each color. I do have some leftovers, but I can save those for other projects. These strips are going to help break up our background a little bit so it isn't so busy. Next, I'm going to take some Deluxe white cardstock that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I have one of these nested rectangle dies, and I'm going to trim that out of that piece of white cardstock. Make sure to put your Post-it tape to the inside because that is the part we don't need. So what I essentially did was created myself a really thick white frame. Now to attach my 1/4-inch strips, I have a piece of white cardstock here. It's actually like a thin type of copy paper. I just needed something as a base to attach all of my strips to. I'm adding a little bit of the precision glue to the back of each strip. That helps it so I can kind of move this around a little bit and then place them down so they're all flush right next to each other. I just did one of each color going all the way down, and then I'm going to take this over and trim off that excess white using my paper trimmer. It really helps to adhere these strips to something first, so that way you can kind of move this around the way you want on the front of your card. So now that I have my panel ready, I applied some liquid glue, and at first I thought I was going to go across the front of the card, but then I thought it would be really fun to put this diagonally. So I'm taking my frame and just making sure that I have complete coverage in my window. Then I can go ahead and push down and make sure that's secured to the front of the cardstock. I'll then flip it over and trim off any excess that's hanging off. And then I'm taking my frame and I'm adding some foam tape behind my frame. You could definitely also turn this into a shaker window, but I just wanted it to be a window so it kind of tones down that poinsettia background. Now, one of my, I think, biggest problems I have in card making is I do not plan out my sentiments very well. So the sentiment kind of took a little while for me to figure out and put together, but I went through my stash and I found this Happy Holidays die. This comes from the Christmas Holidays Stampin' Cut XL. So I die cut that once out of gold glitter cardstock and then quite a few more times from some heavy white cardstock. Now what I want to do is I'm trimming off one of the white layers, and what I really want is just some letters that are going to be fitting inside of the window because I need to build that dimension up so that it's flush with my frame, if that makes sense. So once I figured out about what I needed for letters to fit in the inside of the window, I'm adding liquid glue to the back, attaching that on another white layer, and then trimming that off. So I trim it off each time. You could see here I trimmed off part of that second Y, so there's no S, and then I trimmed off that second H. So it looks a little funny, but what it's going to do is build up that dimension behind my gold glitter one. Now I can take the gold glitter piece, add liquid glue to the back, attach that to my white pieces that I added, and check out all of that dimension. It looks like a lot, really wasn't too bad to do, it didn't take too long. And then I can add this to the front of the card right over all of those colored strips. And it was totally stroke of luck that the height of all of this fit perfectly with my strips. Once I added that to the front of the card, I just placed something heavy on it and let that sit for a minute, and that finishes off the card project. So even though I didn't plan that sentiment out very well, I'm really happy with how it turned out. And by adding those strips of cardstock and that frame around our background, we're still able to see all the beauty and detail in that background without it being too overpowering. Thank you so much for stopping by today.